Okay, so hopefully you see this. I'm gonna run through that. There are really it's big pieces of work in one that we've been working on with Ali to date. A little bit about myself. So act as a CLG based in Ballina in Mayo, where I am now. The weather is absolutely gorgeous. You can see that so much of what we do aligns with Ali, and when we first and the program she runs. ACT is all about accelerating the green transition across the island of Ireland, and we're talking about scales today, from local to regional, national, even international with PLA, for example. And that's really where we come from as well. We're working at a local level, building physical projects, visions and strategies as well, which can reach beyond just one plot of land. Say, it's often about towns, even natural areas too. And then at scale is really where we're focused on today. The tool that we've created, the Accelerating Action tool, the one that is now being used across the SDG champions, and DEC has been mentioned a lot. Department of the Environment, Climate and Communications, they've adopted this tool as well, because one of their core priorities is to embed the SDGs across national government, local governments, and as well as non-governmental organizations as well. And something like tools, I saw in the chat just earlier, Rob mentioned again about how tools can be incredibly useful in this capacity. It's such a great way to accelerate that action, I suppose, is how we define it. In terms of the tool, like I said, this is what we've been using through a lot of the work that I'm about to show you, assessing a lot of Ireland's policies around planning. And in a nutshell, what we're about is taking the SDGs, taking your actions. In this case, it's all these policies, from strategies, plans, local plans as well, and translating them into the language of the SDGs and sustainable development. It's such a useful language. If you think of it as a language like French or Portuguese or Spanish, to be able to translate what your impact is into this language makes it that much more likely to be understood and to be able to partner with others to deliver your impact. My challenge, I like this challenge, is when we talk about the SDGs, the reason I go to the SDGs is because I really think it's the best framework we have for making good decisions. Other frameworks, I'm sure, are available, but I don't see them out there, and I certainly don't see ones with the benefits that the SDGs bring. So, question to you, if you have answers as equivalent frameworks or what you use to make better decisions, would love to hear them as well. But I'm going to explain just very quickly why. I know a lot of us know about the SDGs, but I think it is important when we consider Ireland's planning system to consider why the SDGs are such a good framework in the first place. Yes, there are 17 goals, 169 targets underneath them, so around 10 very particular targets under each of these high-level goals. First of the three reasons I think that we need the SDGs is they're holistic. Already been mentioned how they cover social, environmental, economic impact. Really important to consider whatever you're doing, whether it's one specific piece of work around water, what that means in terms of this wider field of sustainable development. But they're also really specific as well because of those targets. And so just a little example, SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, even that's pretty wide ranging, but then burrowing down into the targets, we can start understanding what sustainable cities and communities could mean. So in this case, a target around protecting the world's cultural and natural heritage. Then we're starting to get more specific, and that target level is much more useful for local level. It's useful for all scales, but local level, particularly when we're trying to understand what does good look like in the realm of the SDGs. Second reason, they help make better, more sustainable decisions. This infographic you're seeing here is part of the methods we use. And to be able to look at this and say, okay, we have a policy, this is for the actually Ireland's draft planning bill, and look at this and say, okay, why are the gaps here? Why is the bill not hitting this particular target, say? Does it need to? Being able to interrogate your briefs, your plans, whatever you're developing at that level is incredibly useful. And it's also really useful for comparisons. How does this brief, how does the policy compare to the previous version or another regions or countries even plan for for their impact. So to be able to translate things, it really helps with policy coherency and options appraisals as well. Lastly, the human side of this, it's all about partnerships. I'm going to sound like a broken record saying this, but it's incredibly important. You see this through the SDG champion works. You see that really compared to any other framework, it is the most well-known of any, if at all known. And that is really important to galvanize support and motivate and mobilize the right type of support to deliver good impact. So Ireland's policy landscape, that's something we've been, Ali has so much knowledge and experience of. Really, we have been talking about this for a while to understand what does that look like in terms of the SDGs, how is that helping deliver the SDGs, or how could it better? And taking the SDGs as this great framework to improve decision-making and planning. So just as a very diagrammatic level, there are these many levels to planning across Ireland and really anywhere from local through all the way county and city to regional to national to international is frameworks need to be considered as, of course, as well. And they're all linked and they're all in, and that's an important point. We've looked at, here are some specific examples for Ireland to consider. To the right are these mini images, which are the particular policies that we've looked at and assessed in line with frameworks, international frameworks like the SDGs, and even the Aarhus Convention that some of you may be aware of. These are not just nice to haves, by the way. It's a good reminder here that actually these are frameworks that Ireland has signed up to as well. So I know that, you know, for many of us, we are time resource constrained, resource constrained, but this is actually something that as a country have signed up to and need to deliver all the way from national to local level. Speaking of national, we're going to start there and show you some of the highlights from our planning bill assessment of the draft planning and development bill 2022. So this is in draft at the moment. The review was commissioned this year for Heritage Council's Planning Sustainable Development Programme. And there are many aims. I'm not going to go through all of these, but in essence, this is about streamlining and updating the planning process through to aspects like promoting greater public participation in the planning process, which we'll actually come to again. Through our method, we looked at the different parts of the bill and saw what collectively they were all adding up to. I will say that we can share afterwards, if you contact Ali or myself, the report. I think we can, Ali, or certainly we can answer some of your questions more fully, as these are really just high-level findings. But high-level finding-wise, what we did manage to see is in the bill, it really had this potential to impact across all 17 of the SDGs. And from what we were seeing, how it was described, 69 of the 169 SDG targets as well. Themes were emerging that I think we thought were incredibly important around heritage, historical and cultural, climate, data, particularly measuring and monitoring, because it's so important to understand performance and impact. Sustainable development, of course, is huge, as well as community and environmental justice as well. And what you see in the right there is frequency of mentions. It's not, it's a hard and fast rule of thumb, I suppose, as to the importance of these themes in the bill. But considering it's I think 400 or so page document, it gives you a flavor of the focus on certain themes here. And these certain themes, how they link to the SDGs themselves, is something we've considered in the report and the assessment, diving into particularly the targets as well, you know, looking at something like data and understanding, yes, data sounds very dry, but why are we doing that in the really? And that is about transparency, accountability, representation, and for those beyond just government as well. It's a nice reminder to link to the SDGs to understand why these themes are important. And also why these themes are important for something like the Aarhus Convention, which I know Ali is such a champion of as well. I don't know if they have Aarhus champions, but I'm sure Ali, you'd be nominated for this. But these three pillars that, again, Ireland have signed up to: access to information, public participation in decision-making, and access to justice and environmental matters, really important for the bill itself to deliver on. I'm going to shoot to the next level of assessments we were doing, if that's national, and I'll come back to some of the recommendations or findings at least we have from that assessment. But I'm going to jump now to regional assessments we did around the Dublin region, EMRA, and their strategy, the RSES, as well as a couple of CDPs, county development plans, that we assessed in line with the SDGs, specifically Mayo County and County Council's plan, and the Tipperaries as well. And this was something we delivered last year as plans were coming into from development. And looking across these three plans, they were incredibly important at that regional and county and city level for what happens at the local level as well. So in theory, these should be drawing down important lessons and priorities from national to help the delivery of those priorities at a local level. And what we did was we again assessed these important plans and strategies, really effective to understand them in terms of the SDGs for policy coherency, but also for individually as well, to help understand what these policies meant in terms of sustainable development, in terms of impact across environmental, social, all the different levels and themes that the SDGs cover. Within local, and this is something that Ali, I might hand over to you for in a moment. This is something that actually, as ACT, we weren't involved with, but it's very, very complementary and relevant to the regional, city, county, and national level work we've been doing across Ireland. But just to say that maybe Ali, would you like to say a couple of words on the report? And
yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, it's a report. So basically, I think it was March last year, the report was produced, and it was produced by Erin O'Brien down in Cork, who was working on it late the year before. And she was on a career break and contacted me and said, look, you really like what you're doing with the CTCHC program. Can I do something? So she was very, very kind and offered to do it for free, but I was like, of course not. You know, we have a budget now. Obviously, the first year we didn't have any budget for the CTCHC program. So Erin wrote this brilliant report, and basically what it highlights is that there really is a gap with those LAPs. So we looked at 14 LAPs. It was 15 towns. One of the towns, the CTCHC towns, didn't have an LAP. And it was really just to assess those LAPs to see, did they speak at all to the SDGs? Did they have any data on vacancy? Did they have any objectives on data? And really it was to sort of focus on, you know, what do we have already and how do we reuse it? But definitely, I think that was when Tom, you and I suppose Erin and others, Jamie McNamara, who's on the call as well, and obviously Rob, you know, we were all sort of focusing, knowing that there was a real urgency to pivot now, because those were the LAPs. Quite a lot of them were a lot of years out of date, and there hadn't been any plans for towns around the country. So going back to Rob's point as well about the sort of county development plans, the LAPs or whatever, you know, I think it's really, really important. What we're trying to do now is to get ready for the next round of whether that's LAPs, urban area plans, which is provided for in the new bill, and also just to help those planners at the county development plan level who've been in contact, sort of wanting to know where are the targets, you know, because there's no targets in the town centre first policy. So yeah, it's trying to, you know, align that whole hierarchy and to make sure that it actually works. And yeah, I mean, I suppose from what we've seen with the 14 that we did review, there's a lot of work to be done. So thanks, Tom.
Great, thanks, Ali. And just to say, this is so much in line with the Town Centre Health Check program that Ali is leading on as well. Ali, I don't know if you want to say anything more about the process, or I can sort of speak more widely about the recommendations across all.
No, just to say, I mean, obviously the CTCHC came about because business leaders came to me in the Heritage Council. So I mean, it was very much driven by the business leaders who were looking for help, and civic leaders. So I mean, going back to what the SDGs is all about, it's all about, you know, helping people at a local level. I think that's been made very clear with your presentation, Tom, and the previous speakers. It is about getting that local knowledge, and I think that was why I felt that I couldn't walk away, even though I didn't have any money in that first year. So yeah, the thing just grew, and then obviously we were advocating for town centre first. But I do think there's an awful lot more that needs to be done, and I mean, Rob has highlighted it, and Jamie's put in stuff as well, Jamie McNamara. So yeah, definitely, I think the group work is going to be very lively. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Ali again. And look, there's more in the report, but just to speak to some of the pieces that Ali was speaking of, of the LAPs from the reports, none seem to incorporate the SDGs or include town centres first policy. There are other elements in there as well around statistics and data, and which LAPs did or didn't provide figures for some of these too. And I think we can have a greater final discussion around local level impact, which is really what we're trying to get to, I suppose, because that local level is where people's lives and communities are affected. So what does this all add up to, or what do we see is emerging from this? I want to kind of piece all of these very complementary projects and programs together to say, at different scales, it may mean different things. We see it national around particularly the bill, the draft bill. Enhancing public participation is something that we'd really, seek to recommend around meaningful community engagement. The bill is something where the Our House Convention around, public participation as something that Ireland has signed up to, and clearly the bill finds so important, really could be enhanced in the bill, including the provision for an architectural conservation area planning portal is something that I know Ali has been keen on as well. Could that also improve the delivery of the development of the draft bill? At a more, if my slide works, at a more regional county city level, this from our assessments of the different county development plans and the regional strategies for EMRA, ensuring that plans and strategies apply and contribute to the SDGs and actively do demonstrate how their own priorities and objectives help contribute is essential, and really galvanize uptake of the SDGs at a more local level even. And using the SDGs as a framework for developing policy, not something that is done at the end of policy development, because you then don't reap the benefits of being able to make those better decisions because you are more aware of the potential a plan or policy or a strategy could have. So using it as a framework for decision making would be really a big recommendation there if it's not been done already. At local level, more particular here around updating the ministerial LAP guidelines, supporting the CTCHC program's legacy, preparing new LAPs as a matter of urgency to deliver on priorities, and consider the development of national viewers' digital dashboards as well to speak to that data and monitoring element. And then finally, at all scales, if you just step back and try and view all of this together, ensuring policy at all scales apply and contribute to the SDGs, I think is so important. I know work is being done by DEC, SDG champions, many different actors, many of yourselves as well. But I think the scale and pace that's required, we need greater contribution and application here as well. It also, see the SDGs as a really benefit and potential opportunity that could be missed if we don't enact on them. Greater policy coherency means that actually we could start understanding what often is quite a confusing policy landscape. And through understanding it more clearly, that's where partnerships develop, and leveraging international partnerships. We didn't unfortunately have time to ask VLA more questions, but I know that they place importance on those international partnerships and local partnerships as well, of course. International doesn't have to be government to government either. It can be city to city or community to community. Sharing best practice is just such a great way to jump over hurdles that others have faced first and can help you over too. And then finally, developing and mapping indicators to the SDG. I'm really happy to see lots of conversations around that already. We've done some work recently for a local environmental NGO around education for sustainable development and indicators there, and recognizing what Vile and Mary have been talking about when it comes to local level indicators is really important. What needs to be shared across all actors versus what doesn't or can't be or shouldn't be. There's a lot of intricacies there, but maybe that's something we can discuss in the final session and breakout groups. So I'll finish there. So thank you so much for your time, and maybe we have time. We can take a few questions. I think I've gone over by a couple of minutes, but I can take one or two.